welcome to another edition of The Take. Well, this ain't the take, but it's the take in remembrance 2018. The people, the celebrities, the entertainers, the scientists, the politicians that we have lost in 2018. I'm your host, as always, Kenny D. Joining the hashtag in remembrance right here on Connect TV. Glad you're here. You follow us all over social media. You're watching this simultaneously on Connect TV on YouTube. We're doing a special on Connect on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and on my own personal page. So you get to see different reaches across the country that we're providing you here on Connect. And we're glad you're here to watch us. And thank you all for amazing and incredible 2018 from the bottom of my heart. We're going to continue on growing. We're going to be smart. We're going to start slow, and we're continue on growing. And we thank you. Thank you all. If you haven't, go to Connect TV. Check us out. You know, you might be surprised what you might see. You might see a little gaming. You might see a little bit of entertainment from The Take. That's the top rated show on the network right now on the channel. But enough about me. It's about the people who we have lost, and we want to get to it. Let's start with a lady that was the Queen of Soul. She has entertained us for over 5 decades. And this past August, we lost her, and we will never forget the name of Aretha Franklin. Let's take a look back at Aretha Franklin's story right now.
With God-given talent and artistry that conveyed emotion like no other, Lady Soul taught the world all it needed to know about respect. Aretha Franklin had the voice of a generation, her generation and your generation, both attuned to the day-to-day and soaringly transcendent.
That what she did was allow emotional extravagance to be okay.
With such songs as Think, Aretha electrified her listeners for decades. Her church-bred greatness inspiring and empowering. First heard on record at 14 years of age in 1956, singing gospel. In her youth, Aretha would learn from such mentors as the great gospel singer Mahalia Jackson and Sam Cooke, who'd tell her, "Sing, girl." Her pop breakthrough came in early 1967 with I Never Loved a Man the Way That I Love You, setting off a series of monumental hits through 1968, among them Chain of Fools. And You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. You make me feel like a natural woman. While telling ABC News,
I've still got to find out who and what I really am. I don't know yet. I'm trying to find the answer.
Intimately involved with the sound of her records, Aretha could shine a light at the saddest of times, as in 1968 at Martin Luther King's funeral.
Because when the wind
She'd returned to the pop charts in the mid-'80s with Jumpsuit and the buoyant Freeway of Love, a joyful diva feeling the love once more. She'd earned so many honors. The first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, Ivy League honorary degrees, performing at President Obama's inauguration in 2009. Then, in 2015, at the Kennedy Center Honors. Slipping her mink to the floor and flat out owning You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman.
Aretha Franklin passed away on August 16, 2018 at the age of 76. Amazing career. She trailblazed for singers all over the country. Who can forget when she came out with her hit single Respect, Chain of Fools in the 60s, and then the 1970s, and then a wave. She made a splash in the 80s with Freeway of Love, and continue on hits in the 90s with A Rose is Still a Rose. Many of you might know what that song may occur. But Aretha Franklin, a legendary singer who passed away of pancreatic cancer, will not be forgotten. Her music, she might be gone, but her music still lives on to this day. And that's what matters. All right. Move over to the Queen of Soul, to the many people consider the king of the box office throughout the 70s and a little bit of the early 80s. He trailblazed that many people thought that when he first started, he wanted to be a football player, but that didn't turn out to be the case. But becoming in movies led him to the pathway to greatness. As we take a look at the living legend, not a living legend anymore, but the legend himself, Burt Reynolds. Take a look.
Don't tell me your name. Let me guess.
Burt Reynolds, the macho leading man who appeared in 90 feature films and some 300 TV episodes, could also play it for laughs.
Why so fast?
Here opposite Sally Field in Smokey and the Bandit.
You've got a great profile.
Yeah, I do, don't I? Especially from the side.
Or clowning around with Johnny Carson in one of the Tonight Show's classic moments.
Your first love, perhaps your only love, your idol. There it is.
Where's the law, Joe?
But he had serious acting chops too, breaking through as Lewis Medlock in Deliverance.
We get connected up with that body and the law. This thing's gonna be hanging over us the rest of our lives.
Along the way, he confirmed his top leading man status as a macho icon with a funny bone, famously posing in the buff for Cosmopolitan magazine.
That was considered shocking in its time. But Burt also has a great sense of humor. He added all kinds of dimensions to the sort of leading man category.
And in his private life, he was the leading man to a succession of prominent women, from Dinah Shore to Sally Field to Lonnie Anderson. But acting is what defined him.
Let's do it.
Drawing on his experience as a college football star to play a prison team quarterback in The Longest Yard.
Right, all right.
And drawing on his Hollywood years to shape the role as a pornographer with integrity in Boogie Nights.
It is my goal, it is my idea to make a film that the story just sucks them in.
A persuasive and subtle performance that won him late career acclaim, including an Oscar nomination after years away from the headlines.
This has been a long journey for me. I'm very, very happy.
From Smokey and the Bandit to Boogie Nights, as a laugh machine or an alpha male sex symbol, Burt Reynolds will be remembered as a legendary leading man whose career spanned more than half a century. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Yes, Burt Reynolds, he was everything that, men wanted to aspire to be. Men wanted to be him. Women wanted to be with him. And Burt Reynolds carried on to the very end where he left everything out. And he will be missed. He will be genuinely missed on his contributions to the film industry. And who can forget about Smokey and the Bandit? What a classic. If you don't know what Smokey and the Bandit is, go back and watch Smokey and the Bandit on whatever outlet out there, in Deliverance out there. I seen that movie. That movie was wild. I'll tell you that. Cannonball Run, stuff like that leads you to the imagination of Burt Reynolds and what an underrated actor he was at his time. All right. Move over from Burt Reynolds to a man that was a war hero who grew up his grandfather and his father, and he wanted to serve his country and become a war hero himself. And he did so, but he had got captured but he never surrendered, never gave up. And to this day, he became a U.S. senator, and he became the true maverick, America's maverick. And I'm talking about John McCain, who we lost in August as well. Let's go back to where John McCain became America's true maverick.
John McCain was born August 29, 1936, at a naval base in the Panama Canal Zone. His father and grandfather, both named John, and both in service. Wartime commanders, John McCain's fate was laid before him.
I remember when my dad's friends would be over when I was very young, and they'd say, what class is he going to be? Not, is he going to the Naval Academy or not? What class would he be?
He would attend the Naval Academy in Annapolis, in the footsteps of his father and grandfather. He would graduate, part of the class of 1958. Here, heading to flight school in Pensacola, Florida, he would later volunteer to drop bombs on targets in North Vietnam during the war.
That's where the sound of the guns were, and we wanted to ride to it. It is what we train for and what our mission is.
At 31 years old, aboard the aircraft carrier Oriskany, flying an A-4 Skyhawk on his 23rd run. Just as he released a bomb, an enemy missile takes a wing off his bomber. He ejects, breaking both his arms and one leg, his bomber washing ashore. McCain would land in a lake in the center of the city of Hanoi. The Vietnamese would pull him out of the water and capture him. They would stab him, beat him, and then take him to a prison camp, later known as the Hanoi Hilton. Filmed as a POW, he was asked his name.
What's your name? Lieutenant Commander John McCain.
Unable to use his hands, he had to be fed by his captors. His irreverence, a source of strength to his fellow prisoners.
How is your food? It's not like hers, but I eat it.
Deteriorating in strength and delirious with pain for months, the Vietnamese only treated his wounds after they realized he was the son of a famous admiral.
I think you have a famous name, yes.
The Vietnamese would have an offer. They would tell him he could go home. They hoped it would be a PR coup for them, given how famous his family was. But McCain would refuse. He told them he didn't want to break the U.S. military code of conduct for POWs. The first man captured must be the first man out.
I badly wanted to go home. I was tired and sick.
McCain would stay another 4 years as a POW, half of that in solitary confinement. In 1973, 591 POWs were released, and John McCain was one of them.
Commander John McCain.
A salute and home on American soil. Reunited with his family, deciding to serve his country in a new way.
I'm announcing today my decision to become a candidate.
Elected to the House in 1982 and to the Senate 4 years later. He would run for president in 2000 and again in 2008. Campaigning against then-Senator Barack Obama, McCain would do the unthinkable in today's politics. He defended his opponent.
I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
And it was a year ago he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, returning to the Senate floor just days after brain surgery, walking in to a standing ovation, casting that deciding thumbs-down vote on the effort to repeal Obamacare without a replacement. In one of his final public appearances, John McCain joining his daughter Megan.
I love you so much.
John McCain spent his final months with family, with friends, and reflecting in his autobiography on the power of humanity, the power of what we all have in common.
Before I leave, I'd like to see our politics begin to return to the purposes and practices that distinguish our history from the history of other nations. I'd like to see us recover our sense that we are more alike than different.
John McCain, the epitome of grit, service, and honor. And who can forget that when John McCain served in the U.S. Navy and served his country, and where an honorable guy like him will not be forgotten. John McCain lived the way he lived live by his own terms, and that's honorable. Many people out in this world, some of them may be good, some of them aren't. We live in a world where we got good bad apples and good apples. John McCain was a true good apple indeed, and he will be missed. And his service inspired people to serve. And I hope, people in the military, whatever you may go through and stuff like that, know that your worth is your service is all that matters. And, if John McCain can do it, I know you can do it. So no matter what, you can pull through perseverance and determination and grit, no matter what. John McCain proved that, and he will be genuinely missed. All right. Don't go anywhere. We will be back with more In Remembrance. Don't go anywhere. 2018. Stay tuned. Join in that hashtag using InRemembrance here on Connect. We got through with Aretha Franklin passed away, Burt Reynolds and John McCain. Those are three of the all-time greats, and they will be missed. But we have more in store. Let's go back to honorable mentions that we had lost in 2018. Take a look. told you a lot of these legends who we lost, many were surprised, many were shocked, many were saddened, but they left an indelible mark, and that's what matters, and that's what's important right now. And they will be truly missed on that. All right, let's go to a visionary that created a vision. He created Iron Man. He created Captain America. He created Black Panther. And this man epitomized what true art was, and you won't know how. And it is Stan Lee. Take a look.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spider-Man, Thor, the Hulk, Iron Man, X-Men, and the Avengers. These superheroes who help sell millions of comic books and generate billions at the box office all originated in the same place, the mind of Stan Lee.
Name?
Stan Lee.
Yeah, nice try, buddy.
No, really, I'm Stan Lee. Like many of the heroes he created, Stan Lee came from humble beginnings. Born Stanley Martin Lieber in 1922, he got his first comic book job in 1939 when Timely Comics hired him as an inkwell refiller. 2 years later, Stan got his first writing credit on an issue of Captain America. After a 3-year stint in the Army during World War II, Stan resumed his comic book work with very humble goals.
I just hoped that the comic books would sell so I could keep my job and help pay the rent. And I never thought I'd come out to Los Angeles and be in the center of the entertainment industry. Oh man, I love it.
By the late 1950s, Stan considered quitting the comic book industry when his boss at Marvel asked him to create a new superhero team. That spawned the Fantastic Four and later the Avengers, X-Men, and the character he told us was always his favorite.
I'm no dummy. I'm going to pick the one that's the most famous and most popular. I think my favorite is Spider-Man.
Peter Parker. I think I know that guy. By the 1960s, Stan Lee oversaw the writing and artwork of all major Marvel comic book series, revolutionizing the industry by creating the so-called Marvel Universe that all these heroes lived in.
We at Marvel have always tried to make the personal lives of the superheroes as interesting as their super life.
Right.
And I think that helps with the longevity.
I am so fired. By the 1980s, Stan was put in charge of developing Marvel properties into films and television shows.
Look great, Hef.
He would put in his contract that he would be given a cameo in every Marvel program, whether it was a film,
Superheroes in New York, give me a break.
Or in one of the many television shows that were based off characters he created, both live action and animation.
Can you feel its eyes upon you, the dweller in the dark?
With superhero-esque endurance, Lee was busy acting and creating new characters well into his 90s, saying he enjoyed himself too much to ever quit.
What could be more fun than writing stories that you yourself enjoy? I would like to read them if I could. And you're doing it for other people, and the other people enjoy it and say thank you.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference.
Stan Lee, who can all those characters, the Avengers, the Captain America saga, the Iron Man saga, this man has done everything. The Fantastic Four. This man deserves his due, his just due. And Stan Lee paid the way for all those. And he even made cameo appearances. And who can forget he made a cameo appearance on Black Panther. Probably like one of the last movies on Avengers or something. Man, genius in my book. Genius. But he will be missed in me time. But rest in peace, Stan Lee. All right, go over to Stephen Hawking. Now, many of you know that Eddie Redmayne starred in a movie with Stephen Hawking's biopic. Got the movie called, but Stephen Hawking was a true pioneer in science and technology, and he blazed the way to know science and technology. And you won't believe how. Take a look at Stephen Hawking's incredible legacy.
By any measure, Stephen Hawking's life was incredible.
Even more so because in the 1960s he was diagnosed with ALS, or motor neurone disease, and given just a few years to live. This rare form of motor neuron disease left him virtually paralysed, unable to express his profound vision of humanity and science without a voice synthesizer.
At one point, I thought I would see the end of physics as we know it, but now I think the wonder of discovery will continue long after I am gone.
But this was never a man bound by his own physical limitations. He revelled in a zero-gravity flight, freeing him, he said, from the confines of his wheelchair. He also wrote a series of children's books about space with his daughter Lucy. He had 2 other children and 3 grandchildren. For more than 3 decades, he was a professor at Cambridge University's Department of Applied Mathematics and Theoretical Physics, specialising in the study of black holes, and revered as a member of the academic elite. But Professor Hawking also did much to popularise science, playing himself in Star Trek,
Processed in the opposite direction.
and The Simpsons. In 2014, his life and romance with wife Jane Wilde was depicted on the big screen in the acclaimed film The Theory of Everything.
So the universe getting smaller and smaller, getting denser and denser, hotter and hotter as we...
You mean wind back the clock?
Yeah, exactly, wind back the clock.
Hawking consulted on the biodrama, which earned 5 Academy Award nominations and a Best Actor win for Eddie Redmayne for his portrayal of the physicist. Hawking's most famous work, A Brief History of Time, remains one of the best-selling science books ever written, and he was deeply concerned with humanity's survival.
I see great dangers for the human race. There have been a number of times in the past when its survival has been a question of touch and go. The frequency of such occasions is likely to increase in the future. We shall need great care and judgment to negotiate them all successfully. But I'm an optimist. If we can avoid disaster for the next 2 centuries, our species should be safe as we spread into space.
He was, as ever, looking firmly to the future.
Stephen Hawking, making sure that legacies like that by science will not be forgotten. Everybody is science. I'm science. I'm a product of science. You're a product of science. Everyone's in the world a product of science. Science is the key to life, no matter what. Whatever you're going through, whatever your imagination, that stress and all that, that leads to science. And what a phenomenal person Stephen Hawking was about the world, about the technology, about everything. He will instantly be missed on that. Get started on Big Bang Theory. Come on. That was a show centered around smart people. So he will be missed on that. And finally, a couple, that a presidential couple, George H.W. Bush, the 41st president of the United States, and his wife, Barbara Bush. Well, they both died during separate months. Barbara died first in April, and then George died in November. But their incredible love story will lead you to believe that. Take a look.
Their love story began at a Christmas dance in 1941 when they were just teens.
I could hardly breathe. I thought he was so beautiful.
Within 18 months, they pledged they'd be together for life.
She's unbelievable and very strong person, and yet very loving.
But World War II separated the young couple, so they started writing love letters.
I love you, precious, with all my heart, and to know that you love me means my life.
And during their life together, they never stopped.
Little did I know I was only trying to keep up with Barbara Pierce from Onondaga Street in Rye, New York.
Oh,
I love you.
I love you too.
Their remarkable partnership spanned 7 decades, and their love lives on through their 5 children, 17 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Barbara Bush said she chose him for a simple reason.
Because he made me laugh. It's true, sometimes we laugh through our tears, but that shared laughter has been one of our strongest bonds.
Here, Mrs. Bush saying her husband was the only man she'd ever kissed.
Strange, I admit.
Still standing with your story?
Their love lasted a lifetime.
I've always felt I was the world's luckiest woman.
But their love story endures for all time.
Nobody ever had a greater, more precious family. Nobody ever had a better husband.
Yes, both presidents, not both presidents, but both President Bush and Mrs. Bush passed away this year. And you can see right here with their daughter Robin reuniting, you can tell right there. That's a phenomenal story right there. You know, that's heartfelt. It's emotional. You know, you can see right here with President Bush, George W. Bush, right here getting emotional. He's emotional about his dad because he don't no longer have a dad, but his dad words of encouragement, words of advice is still going to instill into him and nourish him to keep going forward. And now George and Barbara Bush rests peacefully in 2018. Well, that does it here where we talked about it. The legends that left us in 2018, they have gone to glory. They have gone to different pastures. And what a remarkable way to leave a footprint and leave your legacy standing for everyone to read, follow, and understand. You know, it's just, that's what it is. It's, you know, stuff like that you can't make up. Well, I have been your host, KJ saying so long, and we'll see you next time here on InRemembrance.